Number, please.
Hello? Evacuate! Large object holding over my land like a tornado!
Hello everyone, the December review here. Amazon Prime has brought us the directorial debut of Andrew Patterson with the new sci-fi slow burn thriller, The Vast of Night. The film can be currently seen on Amazon Prime and at select drive-in theaters in areas that have began to open back up. The Vast of Night follows two people. Sierra McCormick is Faye Crocker, a high school switchboard operator and novice radio reporter, and Jake Horowitz as Everett Sloan, the local DJ and mentor to Faye. Over the course of an evening, the pair uncover a mystery when strange sounds begin to enter the switchboard, leading them down the path to audio wave oddities and long-lost reel-to-reel tapes, wondering if something is about to take over their small town. The film opens up with a lengthy track shot of the two meeting up and discussing all of the things going on around the town, including predictions on what the world could look like in the not-so-distant future. Faye has purchased her first tape recorder, and as they wind their way through the locales, she gets a lesson on how and who to interview. She makes her way to her nighttime job as the switchboard operator, where a sound comes through that she can't quite place. It's followed by a call where there appears to be someone in trouble on the other end, a panicked woman whose voice is breaking up but is asking for help. Faye quickly finds herself on the line with Everett as she explains the situation. This sets up another lengthy piece where Everett interviews a man on the radio who tells us an old story that happened to him long ago. Starting to realize that the sounds already heard and the story is lining up, Faye makes her way to the library where there were tapes left that can help put the pieces together. Once they have the evidence they are looking for, they receive another phone call, this time from a woman who claims she can answer a lot of what seems to be going on. The three meet up for yet another prolonged sequence where she tells them of a strange disappearance of her son. With all of the clues coming together, we can cue the big ending. Is there some big alien invasion about to happen? Do they come in peace? So, with all that said, the film is an interesting little piece of filmmaking. It can be broken up into sections or even episodes for its runtime. It opens up with an old-school zoom-in of a television where a black and white screen flickers with images over a Twilight Zone-type narration. We eventually land into full-screen territory as the film segues to color and begins our story. This method is used again later on and acts as the episodic counter to the proceedings. As I've mentioned, the film has long sequences. The beginning alone goes for about 20 minutes. They are all self-contained and framed as individual chapters. They layer over each other, each one unveiling a new clue into what's going on. It's a nice artistic choice which really helps get the viewer involved. The first call into the radio station plays as a ghost story as the camera lingers on Everett and eventually gives way to pitch black. The caller's story is reminiscent of the old talk radio Martian invasion stories. I mean, this is the 50s after all, and so much of that era's details are on full display. From the clothing to the cars to the language, it really puts you into that headspace. The ending is a bit hit or miss. I'll get to that in a little bit, but once it's all said and done, it does leave you with enough answers as the final frame ticks away. It's somewhat dependent on all the details of the stories that play out, so once it's wrapped up, the viewer has a lot to think about. Well, at least enough to put the pieces together. So you will want to pay attention while the phone calls and the interviews are happening. The acting is very well done. Faye and Everett have great chemistry together, which helps carry the film. Faye is played with enough self-confidence, but also with the eagerness to better herself and possibly get out of the small town one day. Everett steers the ship while mentoring Faye while the pair are forced out of their comfort zone and into this unknown situation. The directing here is excellent. With a small budget to work with, Andrew shows great flourishes of camera work throughout. With long tracking shots and steady focus, the film weaves through its tale with assurance. During the two main conversations with Billy, the radio call-in, and Mabel, the lady with the abduction story, we find ourselves confined in these spaces, focused on faces, while the camera never wavers away, helping to add a bit of mystery to the tale. The score is also excellent. Right off the bat, the music really stands out, but never feels out of place. It reminded me of Quentin Tarantino at times, as far as the right mix of almost recognizable melody plays along just high enough in the mix to be noticed, but not to distract you from the film. It adds yet another layer to the film and gets an A+ from me. This is a great score. There isn't a lot of negative I could say about this one overall, but unfortunately one main issue is a big one. The ending didn't do it for me. With such a big setup, and let's face it, the entire runtime is setting up the final frames here, and with so much on the line, the film plays out as expected. The film didn't divert from its clues along the way and didn't really give much back in terms of the big reveal. I feel like I can compare it to a few other first-time low-budget horror films, The Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity. While this is sci-fi and not a horror film, it does feel similar in the sense that there's so much riding on that final moment that it can make or break the film. That's not to say the ending is without praise. The film's biggest emotional moment comes during a car ride sequence which had my anxiety level all the way up to 11. It's a fantastic but all too brief glimpse that eventually gives way to a more subdued closing. It's a feeling that should have been extended, giving the lead up to this moment, and one that felt urgent but ultimately didn't mean much other than to get your pulse going. Had that wave been able to be extended, we may be talking about an instant classic. But it was just an excellent flourish as the film eventually closes closer to how it played out. Overall, The Vast of Night is a great slow burn H.G. Wells throwback to a simpler time frame and an excellent science fiction story. Its acting and directing is stellar, and with its episodic nature never feels slow while the story creeps along, adding to its layers. In a film where its motto seems to be tell, don't show, I wish the ending gave us a bit more than it did, but that doesn't hurt the film too much in the long run. I recommend The Vast of Night and give it 3.5 stars out of 5.
What's going on? There's something in the sky.